comment there. That's facebook.com/91.3 WBNY. Courtesy Breitbart.
All right. Welcome to Living for the People. This is L. Nathan here. Welcome you to our broadcast, focused on providing you insight into events shaping our national and regional world and the facts behind those events and policies that are shaping our world for today and for tomorrow. Join us weekly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. following Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! Program. And of course, our program is live, and as you can see, we are really live. Sometimes we have a little difficulty getting off the ground here, but we've got some new equipment, new connections that we're making, and I'm not as versed with those things as Willie H is, so we'll get caught up and we'll be straight going forward. But we're here with Norm McConnor, who is our in-studio audience of one. Welcome, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. Good morning, sir.
And of course, we're here with Willie H. That's A-Y-T-C-H, not A-H. A-Y-T-C-H, Willie H. Welcome, Willie.
Welcome, everybody, to Living for the People with L. Nathan here. We had a memorial service with James Braun yesterday, and I want to thank everybody for coming out. It was wonderful. We was able to produce this show, Living for the People. Call in, though, 716-878-5104.
All right, so we had a lot that's going on, and we got a short time for today's program to get to it. And even though I prepared a program, Norm, for today, I think we have to start off talking a little bit about what we sense of what's happening in the conflict between Israel and what they say is Hamas. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why I say what they say is Hamas is because when I was young, if somebody was punching me in the head and taking my lunch money, day in and day out, sooner or later, my courage was going to get mounted up, and then I'm going to go punch the person that was punching me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You wouldn't have to ask who it was. You'd see the black and blue marks on his head to tell you that was the guy that was trying to punch Nate and take his lunch money.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to me like that's what's going on. I mean, I'm trivializing this a little bit, but that doesn't seem to me to be what's going on comprehensively in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Hamas did something so despicable, I can't frame it. That you would chop off a child's head because you're mad. I understand why you say you're mad. I mean, I speak English, I understand what you say, but that doesn't explain to me why you would rape people, rape old people, kill 3-year-old kids, chop kids' heads off. How in the world does that make you feel that this puts you in a light where people look at you as victims, and they would rally around your cause? Why would you even think something like that?
Mr. Hare, I was talking to a few people the other day, and a lot of people don't really understand that Hamas is not a country; it's an organization.
Right?
Can you differentiate and let the people know the Palestinian?
So think of Hamas. Let me put it in a context like this: when I was a young guy and much less restrained than I am now, I used to be involved with a number of organizations, the Revolutionary Action Movement, the Black Action Movement,
yes, sir.
The National Committee to Combat Fascism, organizations like that. Mm-hmm. The Black Panther Party was one of those organizations. Right. So think of it as if we're in Alabama. Black people are almost under siege in Alabama, right now. Let's suppose you had that situation and the powers that be said, okay, we can't run Alabama with you all, that are running Alabama right now because you're just crazy and you're racist and you're just no good. So we're going to have another organization run the state of Alabama. We're going to hire the Black Panther Party and let them run the state of Alabama. Mm. So the Black Panther Party wouldn't be a state. It wouldn't be a country. It would just be an organization that you hired to provide municipal services and other services that are needed, for that jurisdiction of Alabama. Well, that's the way you have to look at Hamas. Hamas is an organization. Now, they got beefs. Nobody's arguing that they don't have a beef. One day they were, Palestinians, and the next day, the place was Israel. They got issues with that. I understand that. But Hamas became the organization that people in Palestine voted on to be their representatives, so that you'd have somebody to receive funding from other private organizations, other governments, that wanted to help the Palestinians, but they didn't. They needed to have some place to send the money to, some place that would be effective in getting the money not just distributed, but getting roads built, getting water cleaned, and all that sort of stuff that you need government to do.
Yes.
Hamas presented itself as an entity that was able to do that, in addition to its ideology, which was Palestine should belong to Palestinians and not belong to Israel. So, right? So there are two different things, both embraced by Hamas. One is that you need municipal services and so on, public schools, hospitals, et cetera, in Palestine. You need an entity to administer all of that stuff and make sure that it's done effectively for the citizens. But they also had an ideology that says that the Israelites did not have a right to just have half of Palestine given to them, just given to them. Yeah. That was their ideology. So that's been going on now for 16, 17 years. The Hamas apparently decided they wanted to ratchet up, the tension, the struggle between the Palestinians and the Israelis. They wanted to ratchet that up, bring it more to the fore of international attention. But they did it in a way that does not reflect any values. How can you be perceived as somebody that has any values if you would snatch women up and start raping people and saying, I'm doing this, to recover Palestine, from the Israelis? What does one have to do with the other?
None at all.
Right? What kind of person does something like that? I saw images of 3-year-old children, having their heads cut off by these people. But here's the other side of the story. That happened on October 7th. Roughly 1,400 people, mostly Israelis, were killed by these Hamas invaders.
Right.
That is a fact. But that happened on October 7th. Yeah. On October 8th, I don't know if there was more than 20 Israelis killed by the Hamas. On October 9th, I don't know if there were more than 15 that were killed by Hamas. On October 11th, I don't know if there were any killed by Hamas on those days. They did this on October 7th. Now, it's not that they have not been continuing to throw bombs. They're throwing mortars and all that stuff that they do from the territories they control, firing stuff into Israel. Mm-hmm. But Israel has committed or has killed, at least according to the health officials that are operating the health services in the Palestinian areas, particularly in the Gaza area. Mm-hmm. They have killed, according to them, something in the area of 8,000 people have been killed by Israel since October 7th. And several hundred people every day the last 2 or 3 days have been killed by Israel.
Right.
A third of those people, something in the area of 3,200 of those people, are people who were under the age of 17, children. So at what point does it become clear that the Israelis are punishing Palestinians as a people when that presumption is that all the Palestinians are Hamas? And that's not true. They haven't even had an election in the Gazan territory to elect a new government in 17 years. Yeah. Right? So if you haven't even had an election in all that time period, clearly the people who are the Palestinians, they're not the same people as the Hamas people. Now, don't get me wrong. Hamas people are Palestinians. Palestinians are Palestinians. But not all Palestinians are Hamas. Right. Just like when I was in the Black Panther Party, not all black people that lived in Buffalo were in the Black Panther Party.
Yeah, that's correct.
All black people that live in Buffalo were black. Mm-hmm. We'd agree with that, right?
Right.
Please say you'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So all black people that live in Buffalo are black, right? And all of the people that were in the Black Panther Party were black.
Right.
But all of the people that were in, all of the people that are in, that are blacks in Buffalo were not members of the Black Panther Party.
Right.
Maybe one out of every 600 people, black people in Buffalo were members of the Black Panther Party, at that time period. That's the important distinction that we need to be looking at and figuring out how we need to be wrestling with this. Because if you put yourself in a position where you're on the side of people who are committing genocide against another people, how do you justify you? Now, what the Hamas people did, unjustified, despicable. A police action should go. We should, in my view, we should license the international police, the United States and the United Kingdom and all these people should get their, police guns together, go in and go door to door if you have to, in the Gaza Strip. And find where the guns are.
Yeah, but Mr. Hare, even if you do that, how do those other people know who Hamas is? They'll look at Hamas and then they'll end up killing off.
Well, you wouldn't be able to do that, but if you have enough police force for you to be able to go into areas, go block by block, door to door, and see in the house, are there guns in this house? Are there tunnels, from this house that lead underground,
I got you.
You know what I mean? And then you blow those things up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I wouldn't even bother to collect the stuff. I just blow it all up.
Right.
And so on, right? I believe that you have the ability to do this because you're doing it. They've been doing this all this time anyway.
Okay.
The Israelis have been doing that. So, but if you did this as a police action, as opposed to a nation-to-nation war action, then the scale of it becomes completely different. Mm-hmm. Now you can say to the people who are the Palestinians that live in Gaza who are not Hamas, you can say, well, yeah, you can go and look over there and see if there's any weapons caches over there. Yeah, you can go inspect over here because I'm not Hamas. But what's happening right now is they're bombing entire blocks. Whole blocks of residential community. Now, these places are almost all urbanized. Mm-hmm. And there's like apartment buildings that are 12, 15-story apartment buildings. You got 2 million people living in a space that's not as big as Manhattan. So these people, and they have farms, in this space as well. So people are really crowded. And so if you are trying to get at some place where you think that there's weapons or other kinds of armament and whatnot, if that's what you're trying to do, if you drop bombs from the air on top of that entire area, you flatten the area and all of the people in that area.
Right. I'm sure they get intel that tells them, there might be a cell here or a person there. But out of the one person or the one place, you get a lot of innocent. 99% of even if you hit that spot, 99, the other casualty, 99 is probably innocent.
You roll in, you bring 150, 200, your troops. You roll into a block and you literally go door to door. If somebody reacts, you blow them up, you shoot them up, and so on. And you tell the Palestinian people, you need to get out of the way. So if there's some weapons in here, if there's some Hamas people armed up, hiding over here and whatnot, I'm coming to get them. And don't give me any grief because I'm coming to get them. But if you're not on their side, then just get out of the way. You don't even got to tell me where they are. Just get out of the way. You know what I mean? So I'm not coming at you. But for you to be bombing and killing so many, 3,000 children already, more than 3,000 children killed already. You've killed more children already in the Gaza Strip than were the total number of people that were killed by Hamas on October 7th.
So you basically killed more people than Hamas. So who's really the...
And more people by multiples. Divide 8,000 by 1,400. That's like 4 or 5, literally 5 times as many people that you've killed already in Gaza. You killed 5 times as many people already than were killed by Hamas people.
Right.
And the Palestinians are not Hamas. But all of the Palestinians are paying the price.
Right.
Mr. Hare, this is just my particular point of view. From the beginning, and we're talking about when, Hamas attacked, it was 100% incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you look at Israel, feeling that they had to retaliate, and in retaliation, this being war, that there's going to be a little bit of collateral damage. It could be a lot of collateral damage. But my point is, two wrongs don't make a right. In this particular situation, this is a horrendous situation that both parties, both sides, they need to kind of come to terms with and kind of try to work this thing out, because this is, both sides are wrong and both sides really look terrible. And then when you look at it, it brings other countries into which.
Right. And Norm, I want people, see, our words are important. The words that we use to describe things are important, because they frame how you think about a thing. Mm-hmm. So first, when we say that this was a war, it was not a war. The Hamas people were not at war with Israel. There was no war was going on. Hamas people may have been terrorists. No, not saying may have been, they clearly are terrorist people. So terrorists are criminals. So there was a criminal organization that engaged in a criminal assault on people in the territory of Israel that was adjacent to the Gaza Strip.
Okay.
Criminals did that, right?
Yeah.
And so the response to that should have been a massive police criminal response to those criminals. Now, I get you with collateral damage. If I roll into a place and I'm checking door to door, apartment to apartment, and I see that looks like there's a pathway here that leads to some tunnels, and I go to blow that stuff up or to whatever I'm going to do to get whatever's in there out, and you are in the same space and you resist me, even though you're not Hamas, but you live in that space, and then you resist me, coming in there and trying to get to that bad stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to be a part of the collateral damage of what goes on there, right? I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm not judging it right or wrong. I'm just saying just what you said.
Yeah.
This is the nature of the conflict that we are in. Yeah. But that's different than a war. Wars are between states. Hamas is not a state. The people of Gaza were not at war with Israel. The people of Gaza didn't even know that the assault that was engaged in by Hamas was underway until it was underway. They're not planners of it. They were not co-participants in it.
Right.
They were just people that were there, right? And so it seems to me that because we allowed the Israelis to frame how we should understand what's going on, and using their words, genocide against, Israel, war waged against Israel, and then they say that, and we're going to have to wipe out Hamas. And so we're going to do this, this operation, and we're going to go to war and wipe out all of Hamas. But then the wiping out of Hamas is being done by wiping out Palestinians.
Yes, sir.
See, that's different.
Yeah.
Because now you're shooting people who didn't shoot at you. How many of those 8,000 people that are dead already are people that were shooting at Israelis? 6?
Yeah.
23?
Very
right?
small amount. Yeah.
Maybe fewer than that. Yeah. Okay? So that's the problem that I'm having here. And I'm saying this to you because I'm reading international press. Mm-hmm. What people are saying in France, what they're saying in Al Jazeera, and other news outlets. And that's what they're reacting to. They're not saying that Hamas are good people and, we need to spare the Hamas people from any more violence. They all agree that Hamas is a terrible organization and it needs to be rooted out and taken away from the Palestinian matrix. They should not be there. People that would do what Hamas did do not deserve to be treated as if, they're folks that should be on the other side of the table of a negotiation. They're not worthy of negotiation.
Mr. Hare, I understand 100%, but how can you really, really go in and root out who's Palestinian
Right.
and who's from, and what the difference is when
That's what I was saying.
when they're together. You know what I mean?
Right, but see, but the way you do it is, if you do this as a police action. Let's take it in America right now. You know, you got people that kill people in the United States, right? You know, this group, this gang. You know, let's take a gang, right? And they shoot some people, you know, in somebody else's gang or somebody who ain't in the gang, but they do it. You get a lead on, you know, who some of the members of the gang are. You go to the places where you think those gang members congregate. You knock on doors. The people that answer the door may not be gang members, but there may be people who are gang members who were in that space, and their weapons and other materials that they have that let you know this is where some of these players are operating from. So you go and get that stuff and root it out. If people in that space resist you, then you fight them, whether they're gang members or not. If they resist you, you fight them because you're trying to root out the criminals, right? I think that's the way you have to look at this thing. But I'm not going to judge everybody who lives in the Masson district because two people that live in a house over on Sweeney Street, you know, may have been accused of being involved in a murder. I'm not going to judge all of the people in the Masson district because of two people in a house on Sweeney Street. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
So you got some people who, you know, I mean, there's 2.1 million people in Gaza, right? You got whatever number of people that were involved with Hamas in this brutal assault on the Israelis. They need to be caught. The truth is, Palestinian people should have been putting stuff on the table to whoever the police people are in their jurisdiction and say, these are the guys that we know or we think were involved in this. You know what I mean? And use your normal policing process to try to identify who the bad guys are and then get rid of the bad guys. But you can't attack the entire population of Gaza. And that's what seems to be happening right now. And I know the Israelis will say, oh, no, that's not really what's happening. Everybody that we killed, you know, was a Palestinian, or they had Palestinian clothes, diapers on the baby and whatnot. You know, I mean, whatever it is that the Israelis are saying. The way it comes across to the people in other countries, it comes across that the Israelis are merciless, you know, Nazi, you know, brutal murderers themselves. That's the way it comes across to other people. And remember, Israel didn't buy Palestine. There's no deeds, you know, that went from the Palestinians to the Israelis. The British and the Americans and the English and the Germans and so on, they come together, you know, with their Balfour Resolution, and they made a decision about how to help Jewish people have a homeland. But they took the price from the Palestinians. The Palestinians had nothing to do with it. They never denied the Jewish people a homeland. They lived in this place before the Jewish people moved in there. They lived in this place while the Jewish people lived there. And they lived in this place after the Jewish people left. They've always been there. So from their point of view, why are you taking the price from me? I didn't do anything to you. Now, when I say didn't do anything, I'm sure there's biases between Palestinian people, you know, in Lebanon and so on, and Jewish people that live in the same area. But most of the stuff that I read indicates that for the past 2,000 years, Jewish people and Palestinian people, Muslim people, have lived across the street side by side, sometimes in the same building, for all this time period with, you know, some little conflicts, but very little conflict. But for this to turn into the loss of half of their territory, that's a different issue, you know, for them. So I understand their issue. But as I said to you before, and I'll repeat this over and over again, there's nothing you can do about the fact that Israel is now Israel.
Yeah.
It may be wrong by your perspective as to how Israel came to be in control of that territory. That may be, you may feel that's unjustified. I may feel that's unjustified. I think it's unjustified that the English, you know, got control of the Adirondack Mountains. that the English got control of Jamestown, Virginia, that there was even such a thing as Jamestown, Virginia. You know, I think all of that was wrong. But I can't do anything about that. That stuff happened 200, 300, 400 years ago. I can't do anything about that. That's in place. What I can do is the best I can to find a way to help everybody live as productive, safe, respected life possible with the resources that are available to me. I can do those things. So I'm saying that for the Palestinian people, I can't change the fact that 75 years ago, Israel was put in your space. That got done. All I can do is just say out loud, yeah, that got done. But now it's done. There are great-grandchildren that have been born in Israel. How can you can't just undo that? You can't, what's the word they used to say, unring the bell? You can't unring the bell, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's done. But what you can do is you can sit down with people and say, listen, we need to come to a place where you got equity in what survives and the Israelis have equity in what survives, and you all can walk away with your own equity. And we can be done with this, because I can't keep spending $6 billion a year, defending your issues, okay? I got other issues I got to defend with my money. And so that's the way that I think that this is the best way to approach it. Now, it may be that the Palestinians won't go along with that. They may say, keep your hospitals, keep your schools, keep your roads, keep your water desalination plants, and so on. And if you do that, then I'm going to walk away.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, well, if that's how you feel, I mean, I try to put my money on the table and my resources on the table to help you have a place where you can stay and you can have a quality of life. Now, if you're going to spit in my face and tell me, whatever it is you want to say to me and spit in and curse me and so on, and not let me help you, then I'm going to walk away.
Yeah, well, with that, Mr. Harry, like you say, if they don't, and I am an advocate for, I'll just say almost going back to the Balfour Resolution. Mm-hmm. I mean, because everything is in place at this point, you have to grab on to what you can get, what's going to help you, and
cut your losses.
Yeah, cut your losses.
Gotta cut your losses, right?
And go from there.
And I'm not trying to be, disrespectful. Mm-hmm. I'm simply saying that at the end of the day, Israel is not going to disappear. No matter how much arguing and fussing and fighting and throwing around, the crayons and, breaking the blackboard, no matter what you do,
yes, sir.
At the end of the day, Israel is still going to be there. So if you start with that reality, what's the best reality that you can create for you with establishing the fact that Israel is still going to be there at the end of all of the days? Israel is going to be there. And if you're not willing to start thinking like that, then there's no way out of this thing that's going to be good for you.
Yeah.
I don't have a route for you that's going to be good for you. I think that's the way we have to talk about it.
Yeah,
so listen, that music, we finally got, Willie H. to get me to get the program up and running and whatnot. So now we got the music saying you got to take care of my sponsors. So let's take a quick break, talk to our sponsors. We will see you on the other side of the break here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
91.3 FM WBNY is proud to present Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman.
Welcome to Democracy Now!
Award-winning investigative journalism.
Is the NRA imploding?
Providing relevant analysis that makes you think.
Secret State Department documents, including evidence of U.S. war crimes.
Fact-finding reports you will not hear elsewhere. Democracy Now! Airs Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on 91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo. Ready for radio that's challenging, innovative, and encouraging? Tune in, Living for the People.
This is L. Nathan Hare. Join me right here, 91.3 FM, WBNY. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. after Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! We'll provide objective analysis regarding current issues. Call 878-5104. It's Living for the People on 91.3 FM, WBNY. All right, welcome back to Living for the People. This is L. Nathan here, your host. We're here with Norm McCarter, who's our in-studio audience in one. Welcome back, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare.
And we're here with Willie H. You see how quickly he gets the material, the equipment up and running, rather than for me doing it. So thanks, Willie.
You're welcome.
All right. So listen, one of the things that I've been trying to get my head wrapped around, and Norm, I wanted to visit with you on this because you have the citizen, view. That means I'm about to say something to diss citizens now, right? What I'm troubled by is this assertion being trumpeted by the media constantly that Joe Biden has low approval numbers in the public. The voters think that he's not performing well. His numbers are 42% for his personal approval rating and 46% for his job performance rating,
Right.
and so on. And they talk about this as if people are making a decision between the Biden administration as the next administration to get voted in, or the Trump people becoming the next administration coming in, or not even just Trump, the Republicans, period, any Republican, as the next administration coming in. And I'm having difficulty understanding the rationale here. If the thing that people are upset about is inflation, number one, what people seem to be whining about is they want prices to go back to where they were before the pandemic.
Right.
When have you ever seen prices go backwards to where they were? Come on. Now you got Willie H. being a comedian. He thought that was funny.
They never go back. They never go back.
And I agree with you, Willie. That is funny. What experience have you had in your life when you saw that milk used to be $1 a quart, and then it rolled back to 75 cents a quart? That never happens, right?
Well, in the inner city, they want to sell you some bad milk.
Exactly, and raise the price on that. Right? They'll sell you rotten milk,
That's another problem I got. I notice in the city, everything is more expensive. The gas, everything is more expensive. When you go out in the suburbs, things are cheaper. You get more quality. That's another thing I've noticed.
But keep in mind, when you say more expensive, it's more expensive than it would be if you bought the same thing in the suburbs.
Right, absolutely.
But if you went back 3 years, the difference between the cost of something 3 years ago in the city versus the cost of something in the suburbs 3 years ago, that gap is still going to be the same gap. It's not like
same gap.
Like everybody was spending $1,
right.
for a quart.
Right.
It's never been like that.
Right. That's always been the same.
Right.
Gap,
so the concern that I'm having is that the media keeps trumpeting this idea that the Biden administration has not been successful in dealing with inflation. And they conflate the inflation increase with the performance of the economy. Now, I always thought that if you do something where from today until the next day we do the look, the economy grew, and instead of having $1 for everybody, we got $1.05 for everybody. That's a good deal, right?
Yes, sir.
Having more money is better than having less money, right? Yeah. So if we have more people working, right, 3.8, 3.7% unemployment, if the consumer price index is, for the last 6 months, if you go from June of last year of this year to the end of October of this year, you will find that the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, has only gone up by 0.5%. If it's only gone up by 0.5% over the course of a 6-month period, then that means over the course of a 12-month period, it's on a pace to only go up by 1%. And if it only goes up by 1%, that's less than half of the desired inflation rate that you claim, would be your successful control of inflation. We already are in successful control of inflation.
Right.
Why isn't that being talked about in the newspapers every day? Why is it, prices are higher than they were in 2019? You're right. Everything is higher than it was in 2019. Why do the newspapers keep framing things in that way? What is the agenda here? Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Hare, first and foremost, I just want to say I am not a real proponent of the media, because the media it seems that it's unfair in many ways. But when it really comes down to it, the media leans to the side, in most cases, of the rich. Because this is pretty much where they are, and they basically they want, number one, and we got to definitely go toward this. They want to keep Trump, or even the idea of Trump running and being successful. They want to keep that
I
going.
that.
I
believe that.
Even with all the negativity, they never aim any of the positive things that they should be aiming, of all of the great things that President Biden has done during his
administration, right?
Administration, yeah.
And see, that's
we don't
so,
get that.
That's so important, because what seems to be overlooked by the national media, and I'm saying that politely because I think it's deliberately being overlooked. It's not just it being overlooked; it's being deliberately overlooked.
Yeah.
Is that when you elect a president, you are not electing that one person by himself or herself. You're electing that person's administration.
Yes.
So you're electing a person who's going to run your environmental protection agency, your energy agency, your health and human services agency, your weights and measures agency, your transportation agency. You're electing all of these people who are going to effect policy in all of these different 12 parts of government. That's who you're electing.
Yeah.
So even if Joe Biden is old, and let's suppose he just completely deteriorated in 2025 or 2026, he just decomposed and melted right in front of us and disappeared. His administration wouldn't disappear.
Right.
His vice president would take over. If the vice president melted, then the Speaker of the House would take over.
Yeah.
If the Speaker of the House melted, then the president pro tempore, would take over. The administration of you're electing an administration. So what you have to ask yourself is not, do I like or dislike Joe Biden? Do I like or dislike the policy orientation of Joe Biden versus do I like or dislike the policy orientation of Kevin McCarthy and Matthew Gaetz, and these kind of people.
Mr. Hare, let me just interject real quick. This is something that just the way you ran it down, but it seems almost as if the Democratic administration, his cabinet, and the policies have all been strong. Nothing has wavered.
Right.
Everything has kind of held its ground, and everything is, when you look at the way that you go from top to bottom, it is just the next man up mentality.
Right.
And I mean, hey, they're doing great, but the media does not expound on that in any way.
Look at the things that people have been saying. All of our jobs, that's what the Republicans have been saying this.
Yeah.
Our jobs have been sold out, to low-wage countries around the world. Well, guess who did the selling? You're the ones who did the selling. That was done under the Ronald Reagan administration,
Yes.
during the 2 George Bush administrations, and the Donald Trump administrations. You're the ones who did this.
Yeah.
You changed tax law to make it easier for them to be able to turn their assets into more liquid form and use those assets to be able to finance moving their production facilities to Vietnam and to India and to Ireland, and all these different places and so on to take advantage of low wages in other places.
And if you look at it, just on more recent, Trump tried to outsource jobs to Russia. I mean, these things are just things that it almost seems like the Republican, that's their base. That's what they stand on.
And I mean, how do we get in a position where 80% of the insulin that we need in this country, we have to get from India, from people outside?
It should never be.
You got 40% of the people in this country, if not more, are taking insulin right now. I don't know if it's quite that many, but we have a large percentage of people in this country that are insulin dependent every day. And for something that everybody, so many people in this country or so many households in this country are dependent on, why is that something that we have to get from somebody else, that we're not manufacturing that ourselves? Because the cost of labor in India may only be, $1 an hour or 75 cents an hour, whereas the cost of labor in the United States may be $25 or $30 an hour. So because they can make it at a much lower price point in India, that's why they make the stuff over there.
Yeah,
but then when India has a problem like the coronavirus happened in India and people were dying and workforces were collapsing and so on, when that occurred, we wound up in a position where we couldn't even supply our own insulin to ourselves.
Mr. I just want to ask real quick. I know that we always have the back and forth with quantity over quality.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do outsource and you go to India and you get these particular items that utilizing insulin as something that we're bringing back here,
mm-hmm.
is the quality as good as it would be if it was
well,
here?
supposedly,
like we lose quality.
But in the example I was giving with insulin in India, they probably inspect these plants from U.S. inspectors physically going to India and going to the production facilities in India. They may only get to those facilities once or twice in the course of a year. And you don't know what's happening day to day, right? I mean, they may look sparkling clean when the U.S. inspectors show up, but the day after the U.S. inspectors show up, it may not look quite so sparkly and clean.
I got you.
Right? And we have had incidences in the last couple of years where they found little filaments of metal in the insulin because in the manufacturing process to create those little vials that the insulin goes into, they got some, whatever they did to clean those metals, they left little metal shavings in it. They didn't cook all of those metal shavings away. So when they put the insulin into those containers, some of those little metal shavings went in with it. So when you're taking the insulin in your body, you're taking in some of those little metal shavings going into your body as well. Now, I'm not trying to impugn, India and so on. I'm simply saying that we claim as a country that we need more manufacturing jobs so that you don't have to go to doctorate school to be able to qualify to get a job. Yeah. You should be able to just go to high school, have enough skill from what you get from going to high school to be able to go get a job in a manufacturing company in the United States. But we had transferred so many of the manufacturing jobs to other places, we didn't have those jobs available in the United States. Well, Joe Biden worked really hard to get those jobs moved back into the United States.
Yes.
And so what have we seen? We've seen 3 or 4 million manufacturing jobs move back into the United States over the course of the past couple of years. You would think that the people that have been whining about that would be congratulating him for that.
You never hear about that.
They act like that wasn't even done. And the Matthew Gates and people, they say, we need jobs. Well, you got jobs. You've got the lowest unemployment rate than you've had in 50 or 60 years and sustained. You've been at 3.8% unemployment for almost 2 years now.
Man, that's incredible. That's beautiful.
Right.
We don't hear it.
Right. Well, so where's the trumpeting of that, right?
Let me say this just real quick, Mr. Here. This is the problem I have with the media because they don't say anything or anything good about any positive thing that the Democrats have done.
Well, can I defend the media real quick?
Sure, because I know you're a proponent of that.
Not defend them.
You're NBC, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
With news, here's what I also notice is that news tend to give bad news because bad news pay advertising
Yep.
dollars. So you're not going to hear a lot of good news anyway from the media because that's just not going to push dollars to them or whoever's in charge. So that's the first thing. And then, of course, like you guys say, I think some of it is schooling whoever controls, which that 1% is the one that controls the media. They own the media. They own the companies.
Right.
So
I mean, you figure if the people that really want to keep the status quo, to keep money in the hands of people that have money, to keep access to money in the hands of people that have access to money already, if that's who you're concerned about, of course the media is going to be dominated by the same people because they're only rich people own media. There's no poor people that own the media.
That's right.
Right? So
right.
You would think that we would understand that and we'd be able to filter out that some of what we're hearing doesn't make any sense. When we hear Matthew Gates and Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and these various Comer and so on, we hear them whining about what they say the country's policies ought to be. Ask yourself, what are they saying? If you didn't have taxes that would support the cost of the providing services to the people in this country, you would lose those services. What of those services do you want to lose? Do you no longer want to have roads? Do you want to no longer have hospitals? Do you want to no longer have public schools? Right. Do you want to no longer have a public investment in an energy infrastructure that businesses in this country can build their enterprises around? I mean, what is it that you're saying that you want? Let me give you an example. One of the things they keep telling us is deficits. Deficits are the Democrats' responsibility. It's their spending. They're even talking about the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, that caused inflation. Now, you do know that of the $350 billion that was allocated for the Inflation Reduction Act programs, only about $30 billion of that money has been spent so far. That act was passed in the summer of 2022. It's almost the end of 2023, and only 10% of that money has been spent. So that money couldn't possibly have had any effect on inflation.
Mr. Harris,
the money wasn't even in play.
Doesn't spending cause inflation?
Willie, give Norm a sucker. He just hit it right on the head.
I mean, right.
You get a Halloween sucker.
Halloween sucker. Give it up.
Wow.
See, because that is exactly what you said is exactly what the economists are saying.
Yeah.
The primary source of inflation right now is consumer spending. And why do we have so much consumer spending?
Because we got more money.
Remember, we had so many people that
jobs.
were unemployed for such a long period of time. When the economy expanded, more people got to working again, so more had money, but they didn't all spend their money right away because they were scared the economy may contract again.
Right.
So now you have people that have been in a good economy for a couple of years, and so they're still spending more money. Right. So because you have people spending more money, people who make things to sell people,
they raise
the prices, right?
Right.
See, now the same people that are raising the prices, the Republicans that we're talking about, are the same ones saying, well, the problem is the Democrats spending, that's the problem. It's all the money for programs, that's the problem. When in reality, it's the Republican class of people who are the owners of the businesses. They're the ones who are raising the prices, and they raise the prices to as much as they can before you stop buying. And then they only lower the prices to a point when you'll start buying again. Well, that's the American way. We can't do anything about that, right? We don't have a command economy. This is not like China. You can't edict what the prices are going to be. In this country, every individual provider of goods and services sets their own price. And whatever they can get, that's what they get. But we have to live with that. That's the system in this country, right? So I come across an article in PolitiFact. This one talked about the deficit and why we have the deficit that we have. So he talks about, and this was written by Alex Cole for PolitiFact. This was written in just a couple of days ago, October 28th. It says Reagan took the deficit from $70 billion when he took office in 1981 to $175 billion before he took office, or before he left office in 1988. George Bush, 41, the 41st president of the country, he took the deficit to $300 billion. Clinton got the deficit back down to zero. He actually had his last year in office, 2000, he had a deficit of zero, right?
Incredible.
How come we don't hear that about the Democrats, right? Then George Bush, the second George Bush, he took the deficit from zero to 1.2 trillion. Obama came in, he cut the deficit in half from 1.2 trillion to 600 billion. When Trump came in office, he pushed the deficit back over 1.1 trillion again. So this idea that the Democrats are the ones that are the producers of the deficits is patently untrue.
Yeah.
I'm reading to you from their reports. This is not an opinion. These are the reports from the Commerce Department. You know what the Congressional Budget Office. You know what the deficits actually are. The administrations that have had the lowest deficits have been the Democratic administrations, and the administrations that have had the most significant impact on deficits have been the Republican administrations.
Mr. Hare, this is why I say, and how come I don't have too much faith in the media. Now, if we know this information, and well, I'm gonna put it like this: if I know this information, why in the heck doesn't the media? That they know it, but they don't want to represent what's true, in order to upgrade Biden. They'd rather upgrade Trump with negative, wild, crazy stuff that he does, and that to me is the state of what we're living in. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. So I just ask us, and we did this once before, talking about what are the things that people actually want. Here's one of the things that the MAGA Republicans that we're dealing with now, that Donald Trump type Republicans, that they are trying to build their thesis around. Their thesis is that even when you elect a Republican to office, for the national office, you still wind up with the same core policies because the Republicans and the Democrats have the same core policies that they believe in. So their objection is that we Republicans should be different than that. We should have different objectives. So I want to help us to understand what's being said when Republicans like Matt Gaetz assert that. What is it that are there, or I'm going to say it this way, are there things that all Republicans should be expected to want that are identical to the things that all Democrats should want? So don't all Democrats and Republicans want clean water?
Yes.
Or is it that the Republicans don't want clean water?
Yeah, we all
want clean water, right? Yeah. Don't we all want a dependable health care system?
Yeah.
Don't we all want a reliable public education system?
Yes,
public
sir.
School education system?
Yes, sir.
Don't we all want a reliable Social Security system?
Yes, sir.
Don't we all want a reliable Medicare system?
Yes, sir.
Don't we want all of us seem to be in the corner of supporting Israel's existence as a country?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Mr. Hare, I was about to say from the beginning when you posed it that we didn't have the same core policies, but you know what I mean. But as you ran this down, basically I see that we do, but it just seems like we're just so far apart.
And I would say that if we don't have these core policies, something's wrong with us.
Right.
We should all want clean food.
It reigns true to everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
We would all. I would hope that every elected administration in this country would be on the side of clean food, would be on the side of clean water, would be on the side of jobs coming back into the United States rather than going someplace else, and so on.
Yeah.
We've got to stop allowing people to suggest to us things that really are illogical. They're antithetical to our collective self-interest. Just because we have collective interests doesn't mean we don't have some things that we differ on. But the things that we differ on shouldn't be so fundamental that we don't have the ability to walk forward together. We have to operate our government in whatever number of days, 18 or 19 days. If we don't make some really good decisions right now, we won't have a government operating again.
Well, here's a quick question, Mr. Hare. By us having all of the same core policies, why are we so far apart on core policies? I mean,
Because
really.
the reality is, historically, we've not been that far apart. The media tries to make it sound like we're that far apart, and the people that are trying to differentiate between themselves and other people try to make it seem like we're that far apart. But we're only far apart on the things that are on the margins. The things that are fundamental, like making sure that your bridges can hold the weight of the cars on them.
Yeah, but we're actually fighting for the spending to sustain these core things.
Right.
And it's basically boils down to the money.
Right.
So that's I don't see.
At the end of the day, it boils down to this. In order for you to take care of the needs of Americans, you have to identify what those Americans' needs are. You have to develop a strategy on how you meet those needs. Then you have to pay to implement those strategies.
Yes, sir.
It's the pay for that's the problem. The pay for comes out of taxes. And that means you have to collect enough taxes to pay for those things that you say you want for the people in this country. We got to roll. We're at the end of our hour. Thank you all out there for listening to us and supporting us. We look forward to talking to you all on Wednesday here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY. We'll see you all then.